This is the unforgettable story of Emma, a humble young wife whose life was marked by love, betrayal, and unexpected divine restoration. From Lagos to her husband's family home, Emma carried her marriage like a sacred assignment, praying, enduring, sacrificing. Yet every passing month without a child became another whisper against her name. And every insult from her husband's people reminded her of the battles she never chose. But everything changed the day Emma was pushed out of the house she helped build. Her belongings scattered like broken pieces of her heart. It was the beginning of a journey she never imagined. A journey that took her from rejection to royalty, from tears to testimony, and from being unwanted to being chosen. This is a powerful story about betrayal and resilience, divine timing, restoration after rejection, and how God lifts those the world looks down on. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more African stories with Grandma Selene. Emma was a gentle soul, born with a soft heart and raised with the kind of values that make neighbors praise your parents. When she met Thomas, she believed she had found the man who would walk beside her forever. Their marriage began beautifully, peaceful mornings, quiet laughter, shared dreams. For 3 years, Emma and Thomas lived like two birds building a nest from hope and affection. But in our African lands, my children, marriage without a child is like a drum without sound. People tap it, question it, and judge it. Though Emma prayed faithfully and Thomas tried to remain calm, whispers began to circle them like hungry vultures. And far away, Mama Thomas's mother, kept fueling those whispers with her own bitterness. Mama Thomas had never wanted Emma as her daughter-in-law, she didn't hide it. Why go far, she always told Thomas. Why cross the river to marry a stranger when my best friend's daughter was waiting? But with the help of Uncle Moses, Thomas insisted on marrying Emma. Still, resentment sat inside Mama Thomas's heart like a stone she refused to drop. And so, one early morning, without warning or invitation, she packed her bags and moved into Emma's home to pray for them. But the day Mama Thomas crossed that doorstep, peace quietly slipped out the back door. Emma didn't know it yet, but her journey of tears and triumph had just begun. Emma entered marriage with the kind of hope only a woman in love can understand. Her relationship with Thomas had started beautifully, simple, honest, and full of promise. For the first 3 years their home was peaceful. They had no child yet, but their laughter filled the spaces where a baby's cry had not come. Emma prayed. Thomas reassured her. Together they believed time would answer their desires. But in many African families, a marriage without a child becomes public property, open for judgment, gossip, and unsolicited opinions. And at the center of those opinions stood Mama Thomas, a woman with a firm voice, sharp opinions, and a long memory for grudges. She had never wanted Emma. Not because Emma was bad, but because she wasn't from her place. Before the wedding, Mama Thomas had repeatedly told Thomas, "Why go far? Why cross the river to marry a stranger? My best friend's daughter was ready." But Thomas insisted. Uncle Moses, his father's younger brother, supported him and the marriage happened. Yet Mama Thomas never accepted the outcome. 3 years into the marriage, one early morning, she arrived unannounced at Emma and Thomas's home. She came with her bag, her Bible, and an expression that looked more like accusation than love. "I came to stay for some time," she said. "There is too much delay in this house, I need to pray." Thomas hugged her warmly, he was happy. Emma smiled politely, even though something inside her tightened. From the moment Mama Thomas stepped in, the atmosphere of the house shifted. She walked around silently, observing. She inspected the kitchen without asking. She shook her head at the curtains. She frowned at the arrangement of the living room. Emma felt the balance of her home slipping away. That night, when she lay beside Thomas, she whispered, "I hope this visit will be peaceful." Thomas kissed her forehead. "Don't worry, Mama will adjust." But deep within herself, Emma already sensed the truth. Nothing about this visit would bring peace. The first week of Mama Thomas's stay revealed what Emma feared. The woman had not come to pray, she had come to dominate. She began her mission quietly. Observing, commenting, disapproving. On her second morning, she entered the kitchen and found Emma seasoning meat. "This is how you cook?" Mama Thomas asked, her tone sharp enough to cut through air. "No wonder my son has lost weight." She pushed Emma aside and took over the pot as though Emma were an untrained apprentice. Every movement she made carried judgment. Every sigh carried accusation. Emma stood back, swallowing her embarrassment. By afternoon, Mama Thomas was rearranging the living room. "These curtains are too dull," she said. "This sofa is too close to the window. Who taught you how to keep a man's house?" Emma tried to help, but Mama Thomas stopped her. "Just stand and watch, you will learn." Thomas returned from work and found his mother in the middle of the chaos. He smiled proudly, hugged her, and praised her efforts. He didn't notice Emma's swollen eyes or broken posture. Later that night, Emma tried again to speak to him. "She is already criticizing everything I do," she said quietly. Thomas sighed. "Emma, please understand. Mama sacrificed everything to raise us, you know how she is." Yes, Emma knew, but she also knew this was her home, her marriage, yet she was slowly being pushed out of her own space. The following days were worse. Mama Thomas woke before dawn, praying loudly, calling Emma's name indirectly in her spiritual attacks. "Any woman preventing my son from rising, Lord, remove her." Emma heard everything, but she said nothing. Silence was the only weapon she had. And even that was being taken from her. Just when Emma thought the situation couldn't get worse, Thomas's siblings arrived, announced only by a phone call made 1 hour before their arrival. Johnson came first, loud and careless. Jennifer followed, elegant but cold. Janet came last, carrying bitterness like a trophy. The moment they entered, Emma felt tension climb the walls like smoke. "Emma, bring water," Johnson said barely 5 minutes after stepping inside. "Emma, have you cooked?" Janet asked without greeting. Jennifer simply eyed her from head to toe, then looked away as if Emma were beneath acknowledgement. Their presence expanded Mama Thomas's authority. Suddenly, Emma became invisible unless someone needed something. They ate all the food she cooked. They left dirty plates wherever they liked. They tossed their shoes around the sitting room. They scattered clothes as if laundry was Emma's destiny. Whenever she tried to correct them, Mama Thomas intervened. "Leave my children, a good wife must be patient." Patience, the most abused word in her vocabulary. One evening, Emma cooked a full pot of soup. By the time she bathed and returned to dish hers, the pot was empty. The siblings were laughing, satisfied, belching loudly. Thomas arrived late that night. When Emma told him what happened, he sighed, exhausted. "Please manage," he said gently, "they will soon go." But they didn't go. Instead, their behavior worsened. They whispered behind Emma, they mocked her inability to conceive, they undermined her role as wife. Janet was the most vicious. She watched Emma with eyes full of envy and hostility, waiting for a moment to strike. In that house, Emma's voice no longer mattered. Her presence meant nothing. She existed only to serve, endure, and remain silent. She prayed every night that Thomas would speak up. But Thomas loved his family too much to confront them. And too little to protect his wife. Days turned into weeks, and the house that once felt warm became a battlefield of unspoken wounds. Every morning, Emma woke before everyone, cooking, sweeping, cleaning, and serving. By afternoon, her strength was gone, but her work never ended. Mama Thomas ensured that. The woman found faults in everything Emma did. "You don't clean well. You don't cook well. You don't even smile well." Nothing was enough. One afternoon, Emma returned from the market carrying heavy bags of foodstuff. As she entered the house, she heard laughter from the kitchen. She paused, and her heart dropped. Mama Thomas was teaching Janet how to properly manage the home. "Watch closely," Mama Thomas said loudly, knowing Emma was there. "This is how a real wife operates." Janet nodded proudly as she rearranged the entire kitchen, again erasing Emma's efforts, again pushing her out of her own space. Emma stepped forward. Mama Thomas raised a hand sharply. "Don't talk. If you were doing it well, I wouldn't have to teach my daughter. You should be thanking me." Emma walked out quietly, her throat tight, her chest aching. She sat on the edge of the bed and cried silently. Her tears had become her only companion. That night, Thomas tried to cuddle her, but she turned away. "What is it again?" he asked, frustrated. Emma shook her head. "Nothing." "How do you explain pain to someone who refuses to see it?" She stared at the wall until morning. Her joy was slipping away. Her identity was fading. Her marriage was collapsing silently, piece by piece, while the man she loved simply looked away. The day trouble finally erupted began like any other, quiet, tense, predictable. Thomas had travelled for a work assignment and would be gone for a week. Emma prayed the house would remain calm without him. She was wrong. On the third day, Janet began acting unusually irritable. She searched the entire house for her slippers, scattering things everywhere. "Emma, where are my slippers?" she shouted. "I haven't touched them," Emma replied calmly. Janet stepped into her face. "Liar." Emma repeated herself, still calm, but Janet pushed her shoulder. Jennifer walked in and immediately sided with her sister. "You're always pretending," Jennifer snapped. "You think we don't see through you." Before Emma could respond, Mama Thomas joined them. "So you've started fighting my children. Is that what your people taught you?" The argument escalated quickly. Voices rose. Insults flew. Accusations multiplied. Emma tried to walk away, but Janet grabbed her arm. That single act sparked the explosion. Within seconds, the three women surrounded her, shouting, pushing, shamming her. Then the unthinkable happened. They dragged her towards the door and shoved her out of the house. Her belongings followed next. Shoes, clothes, bags thrown out like rubbish, some tore apart, some broke, some got stained in the dust. Emma fell to her knees, begging, crying, shaking. "Please stop, please." But Mama Thomas shouted back. "Leave, go back to your father's house. You are not a wife, you are a mistake." And before Emma even wiped her tears, Yemi, Mama Thomas's preferred daughter-in-law, entered the house with her bags. By morning, Yemi's clothes were in the master bedroom. Emma called Thomas again and again. He didn't pick. Standing outside in the heat, surrounded by her scattered belongings, Emma realized something. This was no longer her home. And Thomas was no longer her husband. Emma gathered the scattered pieces of her belongings with trembling hands. Clothes she folded neatly days ago now lay stained in dust. Her box was damaged. Her shoes were missing pairs. Every item felt like a piece of her dignity lying on the ground. Neighbors watched quietly from their windows. No one intervened. No one asked questions. This was the cruel nature of marital battles. People watched, whispered, judged, but never helped. Emma wiped her tears and stood up. Her legs were weak, but she knew she couldn't stay there for long. She called Thomas again. 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 The phone rang without answer. At that moment, she realized she was fighting alone. She lifted her bags and began walking away from the house she once called home. Every step felt heavier than the last. Every memory stabbed her heart. She thought about the nights she prayed, the meals she cooked, the insults she swallowed, the love she gave with her whole heart. All wasted. When she reached the main road, she stopped a taxi. The driver looked at her through the mirror, concerned but silent. The tears streaming down her face explained everything. "Where to, madam?" he asked gently. Emma sniffled, her voice barely audible. "Please take me to my father's house." As the taxi moved, she looked back through the window, not because she wanted to return, but because she needed to see the place where her suffering ended. And as the house disappeared from view, Emma made a silent promise to herself. If she survived this pain, she would never let anyone treat her like this again. When Emma arrived at her father's compound, the familiar scent of home hit her, warm, safe, comforting, yet she felt no peace. She felt broken, empty, humiliated. Her mother was the first to see her. "Emma's what happened?" The bags, the tears, the exhaustion, everything told a story her mouth couldn't form. Emma collapsed into her mother's arms and cried like a child. Her father came out, shocked, his voice shaking with anger as he asked her mother to bring water. When she finally calmed down enough to speak, Emma narrated everything. Mama Thomas's insults, the siblings' wickedness, Thomas's silence, the fight, the humiliation, and how she was thrown out like trash. Her father listened quietly. Her mother wiped tears. Her younger siblings looked at her with disbelief. When she finished, her father exhaled deeply and said, "You will not go back there, not while I'm alive." Her mother held her hands. "You have suffered enough, rest here, heal here." For the first time in a long while, Emma slept peacefully. There were no midnight prayers attacking her spirit, no footsteps packing in anger, no insults, no commands. Just silence. But silence can also bring clarity, and clarity hurts. Over the next days, Emma tried calling Thomas. She wanted closure, something, a sign that he cared. But he never answered. Not once. Her father shook his head every time she tried. If he wanted you, he would be here, he said. The truth was painful but undeniable. Thomas had chosen silence over his wife. And that silence spoke louder than any insult. Time moved, but Thomas did not. 1 month passed. Then 2. Then 3. 6 entire months went by, and Thomas never came to check on Emma. He never called her. He never asked about her welfare. He never apologized. He simply vanished from her life. Emma's parents watched her heartbreak silently. She became quieter. She avoided social gatherings. Each wedding announcement in church felt like hot oil poured on her wounds. People whispered. Some blamed her. Others blamed childlessness. But no one knew the truth except her family. One evening, Emma's father called a meeting with their lawyer. He had watched his daughter drown in pain long enough. You cannot remain tied to a man who has abandoned you, he told her. Marriage is not a prison, you deserve peace. Emma hesitated, torn between pain and hope, but reality won. She nodded. The divorce process began. When the papers were finally ready, Emma sent them to Thomas through the lawyer. The next day, less than 24 hours later, Thomas signed and returned them. No call. No explanation. No emotion. Emma stared at the papers with trembling hands. It was over. Her father placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. Now you can start healing. And healing, painfully slow as it was, began. Emma focused on herself again. She reconnected with her hobbies. She strengthened her prayer life. She started going out with friends. Her laughter gradually returned, not loud at first, but small, steady, and genuine. His name was Idris. Calm, mature, intelligent, the kind of man whose presence felt like shade on a hot day, steady and soothing. Emma met him at a friend's birthday dinner. He noticed her quietness, her gentle smile, and the sadness she tried so hard to hide. They talked. One conversation turned into 2. Then daily messages. Then calls that stretched into the night. Idris was different from Thomas in every way. He listened. He encouraged her. He respected her boundaries. He never rushed her healing. Emma was cautious at first, too cautious. She had been wounded deeply and her heart was still learning to trust again, but Idris didn't push. He simply showed up every day with kindness and patience. 6 months later, he asked her father for permission to marry her. Her father, who had watched Emma slowly rediscover herself, smiled for the first time in a long while. You have my blessing, he said. Emma hesitated only for a moment, but Idris had already proven he was not like the man who broke her. She said yes. Their wedding was peaceful, intimate, filled with genuine joy. No drama, no insults, no rivalry. For the first time, Emma felt what love should feel like. Safe, gentle, honoring. And then 1 month later, something miraculous happened. Emma missed her period. The pregnancy test showed 2 lines. Emma stared at it for a full minute, unable to breathe, unable to cry, unable to speak. Idris found her sitting on the edge of the bed, shaking. What's wrong? He asked, rushing to her side. She handed him the test. He looked at it, then at her, then back at it, eyes wide, lips trembling. We're having a baby, he whispered. Emma nodded and they both broke down in tears, tears of joy, healing, and gratitude. The pregnancy was smooth, no complications, no insults, no midnight battles. Idris pampered her, protected her, supported her. He held her hand at every appointment, massaged her feet, cooked for her, prayed with her. 9 months later, Emma delivered twin boys, healthy, beautiful, perfect. Her father cried when he saw them. Her mother danced. Her siblings celebrated loudly. Emma held her Barbies close, feeling something fill her that had been empty for years. It wasn't just motherhood, it was restoration. One afternoon, when the twins were 3 months old, Emma went to the mall with her friends. She was laughing, pushing the stroller, glowing with peace. Then she froze. Across the walkway stood Thomas, with Yemi beside him. Still childless. Still waiting. Still bitter-faced. His eyes widened when he saw Emma, or rather when he saw the twins. He walked closer, stunned, speechless, defeated. Emma said nothing. She simply smiled, adjusted the stroller and walked past him. For the first time ever, Thomas understood what he had thrown away. The next day, something shocking happened. Thomas slowly lifted his head, eyes swollen, tears dripping onto the tiles. "I know," he whispered, "but I can't accept it. I can't accept that I pushed the best thing in my life away." Emma remained steady. "You signed the papers the same day. You didn't fight for me, you didn't call me, you didn't come for me." Thomas's shoulders slumped. "I was influenced, confused, afraid of my mother. I didn't want to offend her." Emma gave a small, humorless smile. "And now?" "She is the one suffering," Thomas said bitterly. "Yemi insults her, talks back at her, calls her old woman. She has no respect. My siblings have all moved out. The house is full of chaos." Emma remained silent. Thomas continued, voice cracking. "We've been married for 2 years, no child. Not even a sign. Every doctor says the same thing. Stress and tension can block blessings." He looked up at her with desperate eyes. "And yesterday when I saw you with twins, something died inside me. I realized God never withheld anything from us. I was the problem. My home, my decisions, my mother's pressure, everything I allowed destroyed what I once had." Emma exhaled softly. She understood the pain, but she also knew people must face the consequences of their choices. "Thomas," she said gently but firmly, "you made your decisions and I made mine. Please," he begged, "even if you're married now, even if you can't return, just forgive me. I'm losing my mind." Emma looked at him, her voice calm and mature. "I forgave you long ago, not for you but for my own healing. But forgiveness does not mean returning to pain. I am happy now, I am a wife, I am a mother. God has restored me." Thomas broke down again, covering his face. Emma stood slowly. "Get up, go in peace, and let me go in peace too." Later that evening, Emma told Idris what had happened at her office. She worried how he might react. Men don't always take such situations lightly. Idris listened quietly, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he took a long breath. "Did he threaten you?" "No." "Did he insult you?" "No." "Did he touch you?" "No." Idris nodded slowly. "Then I have no problem." Emma blinked, surprised. "You're not angry?" Idris smiled softly. "Emma, listen to me. You are my wife, the mother of my children. I know your past, I know your pain. Thomas apologizing doesn't change who you are now." He pulled her into his arms. "What I will not tolerate is disrespect or harassment. If he crosses that line, I'll handle it. But a man kneeling to apologize for destroying what he had, that is not a threat, that is regret." Emma felt tears gather in her eyes. In that moment, she realized something powerful. Thomas had loved her in weakness. Idris loved her in strength. Idris held her face gently. "I trust you, Emma, and I thank God he kept you alive long enough to receive a love that honors you." Emma buried her face in his chest, overwhelmed with gratitude. Later that night, when she fed the twins, she watched Idris rocking one of them to sleep. A wave of peace washed over her. This was home. This was family. This was God's restoration. And nothing from her past could shake it. 2 days later, the news reached Mama Thomas. One of the neighbors who saw Emma at the mall called her excitedly. "Mama Thomas, you won't believe what I saw. Emma has twins, beautiful boys, strong and healthy." The phone almost fell from her hand. "What did you say?" she whispered. "Twins, she looks good, radiant, her husband is taking care of her." Mama Thomas held the wall to steady herself. Her chest tightened, her breath shortened. "Twins," she repeated weakly. "Yes, Mama, twins." She ended the call and sank into a chair. Her mind raced back to every insult she hurled at Emma, every prayer she claimed Emma should pray harder, every plate she made Emma wash, every time she told her Thomas should have married from their place. She remembered the day they threw Emma out. She remembered how relieved she felt. She remembered how happy she was when Thomas married Yemi. Now regret hit her like a hot wave. She thought of Yemi's constant disrespect, the shouting, the insults, the disobedience. She thought of the doctor's reports, the endless negative tests, the sleepless nights. Tears spilled from her eyes. "God, what have I done?" she whispered. For the first time in her life, Mama Thomas felt true remorse. She sat alone, her house quiet, her heart heavy. She knew one thing with certainty. She had destroyed her own home with her own hands. A week later, Thomas tried to visit Emma again, but the security at her office stopped him. "Sir, your name is not on her approved visitor list." "I need to see her," he protested. "Call her," the guard said. Thomas knew the truth, she wouldn't answer. He stepped aside, defeated. He watched her building from a distance, hopping for a glimpse, even a shadow. But Emma didn't come out until later, escorted by her driver and colleagues. She walked confidently, smiling, glowing, the complete opposite of the broken woman he once abandoned. Thomas watched her enter the car. She didn't see him. As the car drove away, something inside Thomas sank permanently. He realized the door to Emma's life was not just closed, it was sealed. She had moved on. She had healed. She had been restored. She belonged to another man. And God had blessed her where he had rejected her. He walked away slowly, knowing the truth he would live with forever. He had lost the woman God sent to him. And there was no going back. Weeks passed after Thomas's final attempt to see Emma. She felt no anger, only clarity. The past no longer had power over her. Her home, her husband, her children, these were her present and her future. One quiet evening, Emma sat on the balcony, watching the sunset. She held one of the twins against her chest, while Idris fed the other inside the living room. The warm breeze brushed her face like a soft reminder of how far she had come. She closed her eyes and reflected on her journey. The humiliation, the loneliness, the betrayal, the silence, the divorce, the restoration, the twins. She exhaled deeply, whispering, "Thank you, God, I survived." Idris stepped out, smiling. "Are you thinking again?" "A little," she admitted. He sat beside her and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You don't have to carry the past anymore, you're safe here." His words rested on her heart like a warm blanket. She leaned into him, grateful for the peace she had finally learned to embrace. Later that night, when she tucked the twins into their crib, she said a silent prayer over them, one of gratitude, not desperation. For years she prayed with tears. Now she prayed with joy. Emma didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. She had finally entered the life she was meant to live. Emma's family celebrated her new life every chance they got. Her mother visited often, helping with the twins. Her father adored Idris for restoring dignity to his daughter's life. One Saturday afternoon, Emma's parents came over. Her father held one twin while her mother rocked the other, humming joyfully. "God wiped your tears," her mother said softly. "He didn't just bless you, he honored you." Emma smiled. "I thank God every day." Her father looked thoughtful. "Emma, do you know why I pushed for that divorce?" "Why?" she asked gently. He sighed. "Because I saw you dying inside. You were in that house, but you weren't living. A woman should not lose herself inside marriage." Emma's heart filled with warmth. Her father had always been firm, but his love ran deep. "I thought you were too broken to rise again," he confessed. "But look at you now, peaceful, strong, fulfilled." Emma blinked back tears. "Daddy, thank you." Her mother touched her cheek. "Not every marriage is meant to be restored, some are meant to be survived." Those words stayed with her. As her parents left later that evening, Emma waved with gratitude in her heart. She knew she hadn't survived alone, her family had held her hand through the darkness. And now they rejoiced with her in the light. Meanwhile, life in Thomas's house was deteriorating fast. Yemi had become unbearable. She insulted Mama Thomas openly, refused to cook, and treated the home like a battlefield. Thomas had lost his peace. He returned from work one day to find clothes scattered everywhere and Yemi shouting on the phone. "What is this?" he asked, exhausted. Yemi rolled her eyes. "Your mother is stressing me, I'm tired of this house." Mama Thomas, sitting in a corner, wiped tears from her face. Thomas, she whispered, I am begging you, take me to my brother's house, I can't stay here anymore. Thomas looked between them, regret hitting him again. As if that wasn't enough, rumors began spreading that Yemi was seeing another man. Thomas confronted her and she didn't deny it. Instead, she shouted, At least he treats me like someone important, not like this useless house. Thomas was stunned, broken, defeated. His world was falling apart. That night, as he sat alone in the living room, he remembered Emma, her gentleness, her respect, her loyalty. And the realization burned deeper. He had replaced gold with ashes. Another blow came 2 weeks later. Yemi packed her bags. I'm done with this marriage, she announced. I'm not here to suffer with a man who can't make me happy. Thomas stared at her, speechless. You're leaving, he asked. Yes, she snapped, and please don't call me, I'm going to someone who knows my worth. She slammed the door and walked out. Mama Thomas cried silently, she could barely look at her son. Thomas, forgive me for ruining your life. Thomas didn't answer. He felt hollow, like a man whose soul had been scraped out. As days passed, Yemi's departure transformed the house into a lonely shell. Thomas woke up to silence, came home to silence, ate in silence. The laughter Emma once brought, the peace she once created, he could feel its absence haunting every room. One night, overwhelmed with regret, Thomas knelt beside his bed and cried. God, give me another chance, he begged. But deep down he knew the truth. Some consequences stay for life. Emma received one last message from Thomas, a long apology sent through email. He poured out his heart, begged for forgiveness again, and asked if they could meet, just to talk. Emma read it carefully. She prayed for clarity. Then she replied, Thomas, I hold no anger against you, I forgave you already, but our paths have separated permanently. I have a new life, a new home, and a new destiny. I wish you peace, but I cannot return to the place that almost destroyed me. Please heal and let me heal, peace be upon you. She clicked send, and felt a wave of release wash over her. Idris came into the room holding one of the twins. Everything okay? Emma smiled, kissed her baby's cheek and nodded. Yes, everything is finally okay. For the first time, the past felt truly closed. Her heart belonged to her present. Her future was already unfolding. And her joy was complete. With time, Emma rose into a version of herself she never imagined possible. She stepped deeper into her career, gaining promotions and taking on leadership roles that once felt beyond her reach. Motherhood gave her wisdom. Pain had given her strength, and Idris gave her stability. Every morning she woke up feeling grateful, not for a perfect life, but for a life that had finally found balance. The twins grew stronger, more adorable each day, filling the house with laughter and tiny chaos. One evening, Idris watched her as she packed the children's clothes for a weekend trip to her parents' house. You don't even realize how much you've transformed, he said. Emma smiled. How? You used to walk like someone afraid of her own shadow. Now you walk like someone who knows her worth. She paused, touched by his words. I guess pain can either build you or break you. And you chose to rebuild, he said softly. Emma looked at the twins. They gave me a reason to. Later that night she stood before the mirror staring at the woman looking back at her. Confidence radiated from her eyes. There was no more fear, no more anxiety, no more searching for validation. For so long, Emma thought marriage was a measure of her value. Now she understood something deeper. Her value was never in marriage. It was in her identity. Her courage, her grace, her resilience. She was no longer the woman who begged for love. She was the woman who chose peace, peace she built with her own hands and protected with her whole heart. The twins' first birthday celebration was a joyful event. Emma's house was filled with friends, family, colleagues and neighbors who had watched her journey from heartbreak to restoration. Her parents arrived early, carrying gifts and singing traditional songs as they entered. My grandchildren, her father shouted proudly, lifting one of the boys into the air. Idris's family came too, warm, respectful people who embraced Emma wholeheartedly. There was laughter everywhere, children running around and women bustling in the kitchen. As Emma arranged the cake table, her mother hugged her from behind. You see why God delayed you, because he was preparing you for this joy. Emma sighed happily. I understand now. During the celebration, Idris made a small speech. I thank God for my wife. She walked through fire and came out gold. Emma, you are a blessing, not just to me but to these boys and to everyone here. Everyone clapped. Emma's eyes filled with tears, not the painful kind but the healing kind. Later, while feeding the twins, Emma overheard some women talking. That girl experienced hell, one said, but look at her now. Some delays are blessings in disguise, another responded. Emma smiled quietly, their words were true. Her story had become proof that sometimes God allows storms not to destroy, but to redirect. One afternoon, Emma received a call from a surprising person, Uncle Moses, the man who had supported her marriage to Thomas years ago. Ada, my daughter, he greeted warmly. How are you and the children? We're fine, sir, Emma replied. I heard what happened to you, he said gently. I heard how things ended. Emma felt a familiar ache, but she remained calm. It was painful, but God restored me. Uncle Moses sighed deeply. I warned your mother-in-law, I told her not to mistreat you, she wouldn't listen. After a brief pause, he added, Thomas is not himself, he barely talks. Your leaving broke him in ways he didn't expect. Emma closed her eyes. She didn't take pleasure in hearing that. She felt sadness but also distance. Uncle, life has moved on. Yes, he agreed. You deserve happiness, you did your part as a wife, you endured things no woman should endure. He hesitated, then said, if you ever see Thomas again, just tell him one thing, let go. He is holding on to what is gone. Emma nodded slowly. I will if our paths cross. After the call, she felt a wave of closure. Uncle Moses had always been fair. Hearing him validate her pain years later felt like a final healing balm. 2 months later, Emma attended a business conference in Abuja. After her presentation, she stepped outside the hall for some fresh air. That was when she saw him. Thomas. He stood under a tree, thinner, quieter, with a sadness that clung to him like a shadow. He approached slowly. Emma, can we talk? Emma remained composed. I'm on a tight schedule, say what you need to say. Thomas took a shaky breath. I wanted to tell you that, I'm letting you go. Emma's eyebrows lifted, she hadn't expected that. I've been praying, he continued, asking God to help me release what I can never recover. You're right, our season ended. She nodded, it ended long ago. Thomas forced a small, sad smile. You look happy. I am, she replied honestly. And the children, they're beautiful, you're blessed. Thank you. A silence passed between them, quiet, final, and strangely peaceful. I won't disturb you again, he said. I just needed to say goodbye properly. Emma nodded again. Goodbye, Thomas, I wish you peace. He looked at her one last time, a mixture of acceptance and regret in his eyes, then walked away. Emma watched him leave. No anger, no resentment, just understanding. Some chapters close with noise. Others close quietly. This one closed quietly. Emma returned home from Abuja feeling lighter than ever before. She walked into the house and found Idris playing on the floor with the twins, making them laugh uncontrollably. She smiled widely. I've missed you all. Idris stood and hugged her tightly. How was the trip? Good, she replied, very good. As she unpacked, she realized something important. For the first time since her divorce, she felt completely free. Not just legally. Not just emotionally. But spiritually. She had forgiven. She had healed. She had moved on. She had accepted the path God gave her. That night, Idris surprised her with a simple gold necklace engraved with one name. Mama Ibeji. Mother of twins. Emma laughed softly as she touched it. The title felt beautiful. It felt earned. It felt like a crown placed on scars that once bled. She wore it proudly. She was Emma, the abandoned wife anymore. She was Emma, the woman who cried in silence. She was Emma who was thrown out in shame. She was Emma Idris. Emma the restored. Emma the mother of destiny. Emma who rose again. The past had lost its grip completely. and her new life had only just begun. 3 months later, Emma received a letter at her office. There was no sender's name, but the handwriting was familiar. She opened it carefully. It was from Mama Thomas. Emma's heart paused as she read the first line. My daughter, forgive an old woman who let pride destroy what God gave. The letter was filled with regret, deep, painful regret. Mama Thomas apologized for every insult, every humiliation, every act of wickedness. She admitted that her jealousy, pride, and tribal prejudice had blinded her. She wrote, Yemi has left my son, my home is empty, my heart is full of remorse. If God ever blesses me to see you again, I will kneel and beg. Emma finished reading and quietly folded the letter. She felt no bitterness, no satisfaction, just a quiet understanding that some people learn lessons too late. When Idris saw her expression, he asked softly, bad news? No, Emma said, just the past trying to close its own chapter. She placed the letter in her drawer, not to revisit it, but to acknowledge how far she had risen above it. The woman who once oppressed her was now seeking her forgiveness. Life had truly turned. One Saturday morning, Emma and Idris visited her parents. As they entered the compound, neighbors and extended family members gathered excitedly. Aunt Mama Ibeji. Fine woman. Emma, you look like peace itself. Emma laughed warmly, receiving the greetings with grace. Inside, her father sat proudly in the living room with the twins on his lap. When he saw Idris, he stood and shook his hand vigorously. You brought back my daughter, he said, God bless you. They all sat down to eat. Emma noticed the way her parents kept looking at her, like someone they feared losing once, but now celebrated every day. After the meal, her mother pulled her aside. You know, when you returned home that day, I was afraid you would never smile again. Emma smiled, God has been faithful. Her mother touched her cheek lovingly. Your life is a testimony, your story will help many women. Emma knew it was true. Many women stayed in broken marriages because of shame or fear. Her journey had become a message. Pain is not the end. Destiny is not cancelled by disappointment. God restores. As they drove home that evening, Idris reached over and held her hand. You are loved, he said simply. Emma smiled. I know, for the first time in my life I know. One quiet night, after the twins fell asleep, Emma stood on her balcony looking at the stars. Something tugged at her heart, a soft, gentle prompting. She realized there was one more thing she needed to do. She closed her eyes and whispered, God, I release everyone who hurt me. Thomas, his mother, his sisters. I release the shame, the tears, the humiliation. I release the memory of that house. I release the pain of being thrown out. I release the fear. I release every burden. A soft breeze brushed her skin, as if heaven responded. I step into the future you planned for me. I will no longer look back. I am free. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not of sorrow but of cleansing. That night, Emma slept deeper than she had in years. Forgiveness was not for Thomas. It was for her peace. Months later, Emma was invited to speak at a women's conference. She hesitated at first, sharing her story publicly felt heavy, but Idris encouraged her. Your journey can heal someone, he said. Don't hide your victory. When Emma stood on the stage that day, the hall was full. Women of all ages listened eagerly. With a steady voice, she shared her truth. How she loved, how she suffered, how she was thrown out, how she survived abandonment, how she rebuilt, how God restored her, how the twins were her miracle, how Idris became her blessing. Many women cried openly, some stood up and clapped, others came forward for prayers. One woman hugged her tightly. Your story saved me today. I was ready to endure what would kill me. Emma held her, overwhelmed. Later, the organizers thanked her, saying her testimony touched more lives than they expected. As Emma walked off the stage, she realized something powerful. Her story was no longer just her story. It had become light for others. Her pain had become a ministry. Her scars had become strength. Years passed and Emma's home flourished. The twins grew into smart, lively boys. Her marriage remained peaceful and full of partnership. Her work expanded. She became a mentor to young women, guiding them with honesty and compassion. One evening, as she sat in her living room watching Idris teach the twins their homework, she felt a wave of gratitude. She remembered the girl she used to be. The young wife desperate for approval. The woman who cried quietly in her matrimonial bed. The woman who prayed for peace in a toxic environment. The woman who was thrown out with her belongings. And now, she was a wife adored. A mother honored. A woman restored. A destiny fulfilled. Idris looked up and smiled warmly. "You're quiet, thinking again." Emma walked over, kissed his forehead and whispered, "I'm just grateful. For you, for the boys, for everything." He pulled her close. "You deserve every good thing." As the twins giggled and climbed onto their laps, Emma knew one truth beyond doubt. She did not lose a home. She escaped a trap. And God led her to the life she was always meant to live. The past was behind her. The future was beautiful. And her story would continue to shine. This is the journey of Emma. A woman who walked through rejection, humiliation, and heartbreak. Yet came out stronger, wiser, and honored. Her story reminds us that sometimes God closes one door violently, so he can open another peacefully. Emma lost a marriage, but she gained a destiny. She lost a home, but she found a family. Her pain was not the end. It was preparation for her rise. If this story touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe to Grandma Celine's channel. Leave a comment below. Do you think Emma leaving that marriage was the right decision? What part of her journey inspired you the most? Should a woman stay where she is not valued? Your engagement keeps these powerful African stories alive.